Here we are, Crash Cannon. I'm here with Enoch. What do you do, Enoch?
Hey, how you doing, brother? Thanks for having me on, man. Appreciate you.
Actually, I meant to ask you. Do you want? I know that Father Ripperger, when you're on Avoiding Babylon, kept calling you by your first name. I don't know if you wanted Enoch or.
Enoch's better, yeah.
Okay, we'll go with that.
Yeah,
Um,
Father Ripperger would not call me Enoch.
Fair enough.
I known him before I was even Enoch.
That's even funnier.
Yeah.
Do you attend his parish, or is that just you guys know each other?
No, so what happened was when I was in San Diego, I was co-running a men's group called the Sheenist. They left the
Okay.
Fulton Sheen. And it was like a confraternity type thing with a bunch of guys over there. And we wanted to have somebody out for a retreat. So I was on the phone with Father Isaac Mary. He couldn't do it. He was on sabbatical at the time, and he was like, why don't you try Father Ripperger?" So I just took a long shot, sent him an email. This was back in 2016, and he ended up responding. He was interested in coming out. He ended up staying in my place. We did the whole retreat thing, and we just became really good friends. We exchanged phone numbers, and we've been talking like almost daily since.
He seems
Yeah.
like a really, really cool priest. So,
Oh,
but I
he
don't
is. He's
actually know him.
super funny and down to earth. Like people think he's stoic, and he's actually very, very funny and down to earth.
I'm actually somewhat curious. Like, do you know? Maybe you don't know this answer, but do all the exorcist priests all like in the U.S. know each other, or is that like? Because I know it's
No,
like they have like a shared forum and stuff for sharing
yeah,
things online, according to what I've read. But
yeah. No, they don't. I mean, they know of each other, but they don't know each other personally. Not all of them. Some of them do.
because actually, it's funny the priest that baptized me years ago, he was an exorcist priest. He still is,
Oh
but
yeah.
yeah, he's up in no man's land in the Upper Peninsula somewhere in Michigan. So I'm not gonna out him right now, but I'm sure he's mostly retired from that at this point. He's got to be in his 80s or maybe older. But anyway, that's not here nor there. Let's talk about Enoch and becoming a traditional Catholic rapper, but also you used to be a youth group leader, a youth minister at one point.
Yeah, director of high school ministry for St. Mark's Parish in San Diego. It was the largest parish in the whole diocese of San Diego.
And how long ago was that?
Oh man, I moved to Kentucky in 2020, so I did that from. So I was an assistant director of youth ministry of 2011. Then I became the official director of youth ministry in 2013 up until 2020.
Hey, just so that people know, this thing is hiding a bald head as well. I'm just doing the Tim Pool thing, disguising my true identity with the
Elijah's
beard.
actually my twin brother. People don't know that.
Oh, is he? That's
Yeah,
funny.
yeah,
That's cool.
yeah. Check out his YouTube. He's big on the apologetics versus Orthodox, Eastern Orthodox, Oriental Orthodox. Those guys.
Now, you're not originally from San Diego, or are you?
Well, originally no. So originally I'm from Northern Iraq. So I'm
Okay.
Syriac Chaldean. We're the ones getting slaughtered in the Middle East over there. But as far as like when I got here, I went straight from there to San Diego, and I was there for most of my life. Met my wife over there, went to school over there. Yeah, so I always say I'm from San Diego mainly because I lived there most of my life. And then 2020, I moved to Kentucky.
Actually, where I went to college, there was a lot of Christians of from the similar area that you're from. There's a lot of
Michigan.
Chaldeans in Dearborn area.
Yeah, well, yeah. So you're Michigan, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
yeah,
I
yeah,
went
yeah,
I
yeah.
went to a campus of Michigan in Dearborn. So
Okay, that's sweet. This Michigan is the second largest Chaldean population in the world.
yeah, actually, one of my I'm not going to out him, but one of my coworkers, who's no
Yeah.
longer my coworker, his brother is actually a Chaldean priest, which is cool too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I know quite a bit about it. I haven't actually attended a Chaldean mass in my life,
Yeah.
but um, I imagine that based on the faith I've seen coming out of the Chaldeans, it's pretty neat.
Yeah, they're great. Those who are actually on fire for their faith are on fire for their faith. See, with the Chaldean community, you're either extremely worldly, but you show up to church in your Mercedes that you leased, or you're on fire. And seems to me like right now, a lot of the Gen Z folks, the younger ones, they got a solid group over there. Father Simon, he's doing a phenomenal job. Father Andy Yonan, one of the biggest reasons why I came back to the Catholic Church. He was the vocation director for those guys over there in San Diego for the Chaldean Rite, and he's still doing it. And kudos to him, man. He's just an incredible priest.
Can we talk about your journey? Because it sounds like you might have had. Did you say you kind of had a falling away at one point?
Yeah, not necessarily a falling away, more the fact that my parents were priesters and the faith wasn't, like I said, you're either worldly and show up to mass every once in a while when you're Chaldean or you're on fire. Um, so there were priesters. I mean, you just exist, right? You know, you're just floundering, just there's not much other than the fact that you're going to mass on Christmas and Easter. But it wasn't until I think people always ask me what my conversion was. I always say it was boredom. Boredom led me to Christ. Yeah, well, it was life. At the time it wasn't just it was just stagnant. And I picked up the scriptures at one point. But there was one thing that my dad did instill into my brother and I. It wasn't so much the faith, but it was so much reverence for the faith, like reverence for the name of Christ, reverence for holy things. It was culturally Catholic. So I picked up the scripture, started reading, which actually led me to Protestantism, because like every other Protestant, I was interpreting the scripture on my own and didn't know what I was doing. And then I ended up going over. It wasn't that long. I think it was 2004, 2005, somewhere around there. John JP2 was just having his last year. He was dying at the time. B16 was coming in. I ended up joining the Protestant ranks. I think just your typical nominal evangelical Protestants.
There was kind of a Baptist type of thing.
Was it?
Some type of a Baptist Calvinist kind of
thing?
No,
more like just like evangelical, non-denominational. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's just.
Well, all non-denoms tend to be more similar to the Baptists, right?
Is that yeah, that's right. Yeah. And then you had the Reformed Baptists and all those guys. Yeah. Calvinism at one point was looking kind of interesting to me because I thought they were a little bit more in depth with their theology. And then Miles McPherson was actually an ex-Charger player, football player. Started his own church called The Rock. I mean, those guys we're talking about money. Like those guys got money. Like gigantic campuses and big parking lots and big budgets. So a couple of my friends were going there. So we ended up attending, I think, a couple of times over there. I did a Bible study over there. There was a side chapel that they did a Bible study on. We went to that, but my dad wasn't having it. It was funny because I was talking about this to my wife the other day, and I was telling her, I said, it's interesting. My dad didn't really know how to defend the faith. He just knew that Catholicism was the true faith. Because, it's part of our ancestors, right? You can't really veer off. I have more sympathy for a Latin Rite Catholic that goes to the Protestant because, Protestantism came out of Europe.
Right.
I don't have much patience for an Eastern Rite Catholic that goes in Protestantism. I'm like, dude, your ancestors have been Catholic or Orthodox for like centuries.
I was just going to say, what about the Eastern Rite that are sticking with the Orthodox? Obviously, that's different than Protestantism.
It is, yeah. They still have the apostolic faith as far as you have the sacraments and all that stuff. They just, we have there's those issues. Depending on what you're talking about, the Oriental Orthodox have different issues than Eastern Orthodox and Russian Orthodox. You can, if you want like more in-depth stuff about that stuff, you can have my brother on. He's more learned about.
I'd be happy to have your brother on. I didn't realize that was your brother. That's fine.
Yeah, you know him, Elijah. Yeah.
I don't know him, but I've seen his content.
Okay. So yeah, he'll. I can let him know. I'll probably be happy to come on and talk about that. But my dad's thing was, listen, if you want to be Protestant, go ahead, but you have to give Catholicism, an actual try. You have to look at the faith in itself. And he said, I can't do it for you because I don't know it well enough, but here's a Bible study. Here's a local Bible study. You guys can go to this parish over here. And out of reverence and respect to, to our dad, we did it. We went, kind of scoffing at us like, yeah, we're going to go over here and listen to all this Marian papist worship. And so it was kind of funny. We got there and it was, God's providence is really funny. It was actually on the early church fathers' interpretations of, I think it was Matthew. And he was Chris, I forgot his last name. Chris was the Bible study teacher over there. He was a biblical scholar. I think it took 2 sessions before we were convinced that Catholicism was actually true. And it was mainly because he was naming these church fathers that we had never heard of. So we were doing extra homework when we got back. It wasn't just the Bible study. Once we realized the church fathers, water is purest to its source, obviously.
Right.
So for like we're going back and said, hey, here's the Ignatius of Antioch, who did exist, by the way.
James White, take that.
Here you got Ignatius of Antioch, as Catholic as can be. And I'm like, well, if the apostle of John is this blatantly Catholic, then who am I to,
Wait, you're talking about Ignatius being the disciple of John?
Yeah.
And you got Polycarp too.
Polycarp too, yeah.
And then Irenaeus was the the disciple of Polycarp, which I just recently read his stuff, and it's very good too.
Yeah.
They all love Mary as the new Eve, especially Irenaeus. He straight up says that in his book that Mary is the new Eve.
Does he? Okay, so I got to read that. I know Saint Ephrem is big on the typology stuff as well. He came a little bit later though.
Yeah, I think Irenaeus is the first one, at least the earliest church father that I've read, and he recently became a doctor of the church. I think that was under Benedict. He's the earliest one that I've found that straight up says like Adam, Eve, now we got Jesus and Mary, and they've redeemed us through their purity and all that other fun stuff. And it's a very interesting read, but you can skip at least 3 or 4 of the books he wrote to get to that one, because the first 4 books are just straight up about how bad Gnosticism is.
Yeah.
And he lays out every aspect of Gnosticism he's heard of, which means you could read it and it's fruitful, but all the good stuff specifically catered to our faith is towards the end of the book.
Okay.
But it is good. And that's one of the things, as far as early church goes, that I would recommend everybody at least read the excerpts from it at least.
Okay.
But
no, that's
go back to Ignatius. What about Ignatius stuck out to you?
I mean, it was just early on, just reading some of the stuff, but the fact that he was a bishop.
Yeah.
And and I think he does touch on the Eucharist, because that was our biggest hookup. I mean, it was like, because you say this is the source of some of your faith. If you can't prove the Eucharist, then the whole thing is in shambles. So we ended up looking back and seeing that a lot the language was very strong in the early church, especially in the early church regarding the Eucharist. So that's the one thing that really brought us back.
Now, I asked this to Anthony. I'm going to ask you too. Is it he shall crush thy head or she shall crush thy head?
It's both.
It's both? Well, yeah. I mean, technically it was like an it or a generic in the Hebrew scriptures.
Right.
But I plan to do a deep dive on that one of these days. I've got a lot of thoughts on that one.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you want to share them or?
I'll probably save it for later, but there's a philosopher called like Philo. I'm not sure if you read anything by him, but he's like a Jewish philosopher on the same time that Jesus was walking the earth. And he doesn't explicitly state that he became Christian, but there's some people that think he did. Either way, his take on Genesis is very similar to the Christianity take on Genesis.
Really?
And he actually calls in his like comments on Genesis, when he gets to the part about, she shall crush thy head, he states that it would be a barbarism to say he shall crush thy head for that interpretation.
Really?
Because clearly everything before it leans towards she.
Okay.
So anyways, I want to do a deep dive on it one of these days. I think
you should. I think, yeah, because that's really interesting, because I think I've heard both.
Yeah, well, it is written both ways,
It's
depending
written
on
both
which Bible
ways,
you
right.
pick up.
Okay.
So like you pick up anything based on the Masoretics, and it's he.
Okay. I wonder if Colby talks about it, because he's big with Mary.
You mean Maximilian Kolbe?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I was like, I wanted to make sure I understood what you were saying there, because there's a lot of different Kolbes out there. But Maximilian Kolbe, Saint Maximilian Kolbe. Okay.
Yeah.
I actually don't know. I know he wrote a lot about Mary, even when he was in like the prison camp. He was like writing stuff down about it.
Right.
And he was very close to getting some interesting Marian devotions out of some of the things that were appearing to him at the time. But he never finished it, because obviously he went to prison, the concentration camp, and allowed somebody else to take his place to not be killed in the camp. So like there's a whole aspect to that. But anyway.
No, he's an incredible saint. I did a Hollow. I don't know if you've heard of him. Daniel, he's a grunge Catholic artist. Very talented. He's the one who runs Catholic Palooza. Okay. He's working on a second album right now. I love everything he does. He's one of my favorite artists. He just reached out to me a couple of years ago. He was like, "Hey, I got this beat. I make beats. I got this beat. Can you do something with it?" And it was Immaculate Mary.
Okay.
And he kind of looped it, and it was kind of cool sounding. The production wasn't phenomenal, but it was good enough to put something down. So what I decided to do with it, I had a rap battle for De Montfort versus Colby on who's more Marion.
I think I saw that one, actually.
Yeah.
I think I did. The first one I saw of your videos, to be honest, I think was probably your going back and forth with Laura Horn. I think that was the first one I saw.
Oh, as Taylor Marshall?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was the first one I saw of yours, actually. Because I think Taylor Marshall might have shared it in something.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
And I saw it, and I was like, oh, man, what is this? And then I started digging through your videos, and the first one that really stuck out to me was Die for This. I really liked that one a lot.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, that was the first single off of the first album.
Yeah, that was very good. And I actually, my kids really liked that one, but they really liked, what's the other one? Hope in You? Is that
Hope in You? Yeah. That was the
one?
single off the second album. Yeah. Days Vote.
And then recently, their favorite one has been your Christ is King. My kids say Christ the King, which is also correct, but not the title of the song.
Yeah. It's funny because the title of the song is Christ is King, but I say Christ the King.
Right.
Yeah.
So my kids, we'll get in the car and I'll be like, all right, what do you want to listen to? Like Christ the King. I'm like, okay.
Oh, that's sweet, man.
So.
Yeah, thank them for that, man. I appreciate that.
Well, what really turned me on to playing it for the kids was they're starting to get into sports, and all the pump-up music that you can play in your car for sports is just awful.
Yes.
And so, like, playing your music to get them pumped up, it's like it's still not something I would want played in a church, but it's perfect for pumping up a bunch of Christian kids for sports. Man, it's awesome, and it's good. It's not like cringe. You know, I was expecting, like when somebody said traditional Catholic rapper, like first thought in my mind is this sounds like, you know, like this doesn't sound like it's going to be something appealing. And then I turned it on and I was like, that is not what I was expecting. And I've since sent it to a bunch of my friends who are, man. Moderates and trads, and they all love it. So
appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah. I was super surprised that the trad community was so receptive to it as they were, and I think a lot of it was because shout out to Kennedy Hall. He was one of the first guys because Kennedy was good friends with my brother, and Kennedy pretty much said, I used to listen to rap, but ever since I was converted and reverted back to the faith, I'm not interested in rap anymore. But then he's like, I like your stuff, so he gave me the early shout out. He gave me an early shout out. Marshall wasn't really interested in it. I could tell through Twitter. And it wasn't until I did the whole Laurel Horn, Trent Horn thing, kind of taking Marshall's back. I felt bad for him that day because everybody was just laughing at the whole Laurel Horn thing. Catholic Answers got involved, and I was like, I feel bad for this guy. I'm just going to try and stick up for the big guy here. And it wasn't until I got.
That's kind of funny. Stick up for the big guy.
Yeah, I got to stick up for the big guy every once in a while. And again, shout out to Kennedy Hall. He actually early on got me an interview with LifeSite.
Oh, that's neat. I didn't know you had one with LifeSite.
Yeah, I had one on LifeSite. So we did like a written one on LifeSite, and then
he used to write there, right?
He did, yeah.
Or does he still?
I don't know, but I know he did. And then he got me on with Weston, John Henry Weston.
Oh, nice, yeah.
Yeah, I got on that, and then when I got on Marshall, my streams for Spotify streams were like under 2,000 for the longest time. I got on Marshall, I got a bump, and that bump has been stagnant, or it hasn't dropped under that bump for like 3 years.
That's awesome.
It's over 2 years. So Marshall really, like, he got nothing out of getting me on his podcast. He just did it just purely because he wanted to. He was this little guy who nobody even knows, and he just did it because he's just an awesome guy.
Now, hold on, you're not a little guy. You're quite tall, aren't you?
I'm 6 foot, kind of bigger. Little guy as far as the status when it comes to when it comes to this social media that we're trying to do, the vineyard, I guess I call it. But it really was his endorsement is what I think the trads were kind of like, okay, I guess we can accept this bald-headed Arab Kentuckian who's trying to rap. So
that is a lot of interesting attributes to put together.
yeah. I
Kentucky,
always say I'm the greatest. I'm the greatest Catholic rapper living in Kentucky currently.
now is Kentucky more of a Protestant state, or is there more
Very.
Catholicism? I was gonna say it seems like it probably is,
Yeah.
because they got. I mean, any place I feel like where there's a lot of Southern twang to it, there's a lot of Protestantism.
Yeah.
It seems like those go hand in hand. Um,
Yeah, it's Kentucky is extremely. I mean, there's a Southern Baptist every. It's like Starbucks in California. Every corner there's a Starbucks. There's a Southern Baptist here on every corner. I got to drive an hour to get to my fraternity parish, FSSP.
oh yeah, so you're FSSP. Oh my god,
Yeah,
I can't
yeah,
speak.
yeah, yeah.
I got some interesting things we can chat about after this podcast. Then, um, next question I had for you though was, at what point did you decide to launch your music? Because I'll say this: I've had this idea for this podcast for years now, and I just never took my shot until now. And it took me a while. I had to roll it over a lot. But getting into like Catholic music, that's like a totally different thing.
It really is. So my brother and I started rapping in the 8th grade, 7th, 8th grade.
Okay.
Yeah. So this was like 96, 97, somewhere around there. And I mean, this is the height of the East Coast, West Coast beef in the 90s. And this is when hip hop was really gaining stream. I think not so long after that, it became the number one, number one sold genre throughout all music.
Yeah.
So we really got caught up with all that. Well, we were living in San Diego at the time in the West, but we were actually more interested in the East Coast rappers. I still am. Till this day, I think the East Coast rappers are way better than West Coast rappers.
You want to name a couple of the ones you used to listen to, or
so Cannabis, Nas, Wu-Tang. We were also listening to some more underground artists, Chino XL, those guys. So I forgot a lot of their names. I haven't listened to them in a long time.
See, I was always into, because I grew up in my time frame with hip hop would have been 2000 to 2011 ish time frame.
Okay.
So like I was more into like Kid Cudi before he got big.
Yeah.
And like Macklemore, those kinds of guys. I wouldn't listen to them these days.
No.
But I did really like them rolling into like that time period.
Yeah, Macklemore he's hip hop. He's also popish, so is it a little bit? Yeah,
he is more now.
Yeah, okay. Oh, he's more now. I see. Okay.
He had a lot of really interesting music before he got big, and as an independent artist, it was really cool to watch how he just. I'd like to see it happen to you too, but the way he kind of climbed the charts independently with no label at the time, it was really wild.
Yeah. No, that's the goal for every independent artist. I mean, I know most independent artists, they don't want to be signed to a label, but it's hard to make it. I would never be signed to a label, obviously. I wouldn't be interested. But I think similar thing happened.
What if there was a Catholic label?
Would you? Yeah, if there's a Catholic label, it's still if they have to be very Catholic.
Yeah.
And they'd have to be very Catholic, because there was a Catholic label, and
is there really? I didn't know that. Or
yeah, there's a couple.
That does the hymnals.
There's a couple of Catholic label.
GIA doesn't have their own, do they?
I don't think so. No.
Okay, because they do the hymnals. I wouldn't think so, but
yeah, funny. So I'll tell you what happened with our careers. So 8th grade, 7th grade, we just started rapping, and we were recording off of this. I don't even know what it was, and we were just taking we would take instrumentals that we would find on tape, and we would just record over them, and it was horrible. It was bad. It's like everybody who starts. It was just horrible.
Well, you guys were using a computer in the 90s, were you? Or were
no,
you?
no. If something came on the radio and you had a tape on there, you would hit play and record at the same time to get whatever was on the radio on the tape. Here I'm showing my age at this point. So we would try to put whatever we can on tape, and sometimes we would even start rapping over the song by the person rapping. We would just try to catch a cadence as best as we can, and we just kept it up. I mean, my dad, of course, thought it was just one of those garage band things that's just going to fizzle out, but we kept it up, and we ended up. I think it was early 2000s. We really started to take it more serious. And at that time, it was more conscious rap, because we weren't really taking the faith seriously at the time. It was more conscious rap. Yeah, no cursing, just decent
But
stuff.
when you're in like early high school, late middle school, you're probably trying not to get flagged by your parents to tell you to stop doing it, right?
That's it. That's it.
Yeah,
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 you don't want mom's at the house. You don't really want to use bad
yeah.
language, right? Uh, so then we got into like our early 20s. We started putting things on what we call wax, but we started recording actual music. Again, it wasn't Catholic. We had a conversion. I started writing more Christian Protestant type songs, stuff about grace. And so I told my brother, I said, "Hey man, why don't we switch over to kind of like Christian hip hop?" He's like, "We're almost done with the album. Let's just finish it." We had like 8 tracks. Is within. I was like, "Oh, let's finish the album, then we'll do one on a Christian." Then we ended up reverting back to the Catholic faith, more on fire than we ever were with the Protestant faith. And then finally, we're just like, "All right, let's just ditch this project, and let's just start a new one. Let's make a purely Catholic hip hop album." At the time, we're not the first ones. We're not trailblazers by any means. We're not trendsetters. Why there was
Isn't there a priest that used to rap back in
yeah,
like the
yeah.
late '90s, early
Father Stan.
2000s? Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Father Stan Fortuna, yeah. Father Stan used to doing it. You had Manchild at the time, Paradox. Those guys were doing it. Righteous B was big in the early 2000s. He came out of Steubenville. So you had Catholic hip hop. The quality wasn't there yet. These guys were talented lyrically. They were great. They had great cadence. It just for some reason the quality was just really low. As most of at the time Christian stuff was.
I imagine a lot of that had to do with unless you're producing your own beats, you're getting whatever you can get and you're recording over it.
That's it.
So you know what I mean?
That's it. Yeah, absolutely. Um, 2008, 2009 comes along. We were working on our album. We took about a couple of years. We're working on it. So, and then midway through, we're just putting songs out. We're putting songs out. I'm going to skip the part where we ended up in juvie.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, I'll skip that.
So we were putting songs out, and I guess we had caught the attention of a Catholic record label, and these guys were really connected with NCYC, all the big Catholic conferences. So they were starting a new label. It was an offshoot label, and they said, "Hey, we want our first artists on this label. We're interested in you guys." We met up at a Starbucks and looked at the contract, had a conversation, signed a whole contract. Went to LA to do a whole recording on the studio in their studios. Everything was going great, and the guy pretty much ended up getting sick, really sick.
Oh, geez.
And he said, "Hey guys, I can't continue this. I'm really sorry. Like I got I'm like really, really sick. I got to take care of my health. I got to lose weight or I'm going to die." He said, but I'm so, but he was generous enough. He said, "I'm going to just give you your masters, like at no cost. Like we're going to, we're going to drop the label completely. I can't really keep this up. But here's your masters." And we ended up getting a full-on album with high production. Well, we could not have done that on our own because budgets.
Did those get released?
Yeah, so we released the album in 2012.
2012,
It's called
okay.
Yeah, it's called Spirit versus Flesh. It's at that time I wasn't Enoch. At that time I was Elisha. My brother was Elijah. I was Elisha.
Oh, that's cool.
Or I guess you would say is Elijah and Elisha. I guess that's how you say it.
Yeah, I think that's correct.
Yeah. So I was, and we released that album, and it's still out there somewhere if somebody wants to find it. And
you tell me that, I'm good at hunting these things down.
So. Yeah, you can probably find it. Yeah, Spirit versus Flesh, Elijah and Elisha. And 2012, we were making a push. We were performing at the biggest event in the Diocese of San Diego. We were really making a push for Steubenville conferences. Yeah, the album's still online. And we were making a push for the big Steubenville conferences because we're in San Diego. San Diego had the largest Steubenville conference in the whole country. It was about 4,000 students. So I became friends with the person who runs it. 2013 comes along, I get married. I found my bride. I get married, and it's a funny story. I kid you not. I'm on my way to because I got married on July 20th. The conference is July 27th, so I'm on my way to my honeymoon, and we've been like for a couple of years we've been dying to perform at Steubenville, like because this was going to be our big break to get into the Catholic scene. I get a call. Hey, is this Elisha? Yeah. We need you guys to come, to come perform at Steubenville. You guys are in, and I'm just like, you got to be kidding me! I'm on my honeymoon. I can't come. Like I can't make it.
That's how it goes, right?
That's how it goes. Funny fun. It's like, all right, maybe next year. Next year, we're planning on performing at Steubenville. My son born July 26th. The next year, they call me. Hey, you guys ready? I can't make it. I'm in the living room. So we ended up, you get married, you have kids, you drop, you got to take care of your family, do what you got to do. So the music really took like a back burner. Like we just really did nothing with the music for a long, long time. My brother, got married as well in 2018. We just did life. We got to work, got to make sure the kids are taken care of, wife, home. And so we were signed to a label, dropped by the label just ended completely, but we put out the album, tried to do it on our own. I think we could have possibly gotten somewhere in the Catholic world, but life just, you have to take care of the priorities that you take care of. So, and it wasn't until 2020 that I became Enoch again.
And so it's funny that you picked Enoch because at the time I discovered your channel, I was reading the Book of Enoch.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, so I was like, whoa, this is coincidental as all get out. And that's an interesting book. It's not like one of the banned books or anything like that, but it's not obviously not canon of scripture. So it's kind of in a weird place, the actual Enoch, the Book of Enoch, which is what you named your album there.
Yeah.
Which I also thought was cool, by the way.
Thank you.
But
yeah, I think that was Marshall's idea.
Have you ever read the Book of Enoch?
No, not the whole thing. I've read bits and pieces of it, not the whole thing. No.
It's kind of a weird book
I've heard.
in general. There's like a whole discussion on which calendar to use that takes up 20 pages between the solar or the lunar calendar. And I'm just like, couldn't they have hashed this out in person instead of writing this down to fight each other? It makes no sense why it's in the Book of Enoch. Anyway. There's just like a bunch of weird stuff in there. There's like a whole like a fragment of a Noah book, which is even interesting
right?
as well. Yeah, and then this is allegedly like 200 BC or around that time frame when it was written down. So it was clearly there was some oral tradition related to it, but it's an apocrypha, so who knows? But
yeah, right.
It's all over the place.
It really is an interesting book.
Yeah. But I would much rather listen to your album than listen to two Pharisees argue about the solar and lunar calendar any day of the week. So there's that.
I don't know about that. I think that sounds more interesting to me.
It's interesting until you get to the third paragraph and he's like describing the solar calendar for the fourth time. And I'm like, I'm done with this. Okay?
It's like the book of Numbers. It's like, let's just get through this already. No, it's kind of funny. You said that your boys want to pump up music.
Yeah.
When I was doing youth ministry, because youth ministry, from 2013 to 2020, I was the director of youth ministry at the time. That's why the music took I was the director of youth ministry, and that was my passion. When I came to Kentucky in 2020, I wasn't doing ministry anymore. I was doing a different job, and I really missed doing ministry, and that's the only reason I picked up the music again. It was funny. It was this might be a shocker for a lot of people, but it was Michael Lofton, the reason in theology that got me to making music again.
And isn't he featured on a track somewhere?
Yeah, he produced the track from the first album because Michael and I used to be really good friends. We talked almost all the time, daily. Michael said he needed a verse because I heard you used to rap. Your brother told me so. I said, yeah. He said, hey, I need like a verse on this beat that I made because he's big with hip hop. He's big with Wu-Tang and those guys. And at the time, Reason of Theology, my brother was on it. Eric Ibarra was on it. William Arbert was on it. And he's like, hey, I needed something to put an intro. And I was like, yeah, man, just send me the beat. So I just put something together. It was just horrible. Like I was like this little microphone with, the headphones. It was like this little mic recording on Audacity. I couldn't even mix it. It was bad. So I put that together, and it really sparked that that love that I had for recording and writing and making music. So, and then I thought, hey, I'm not really doing ministry anymore. This is a good way for me, because I noticed when I was doing ministry, all the teenagers, they had those wide headphones in their ears. And I noticed everyone they were listening to was the Little Yachties and the little Extestacion and all the horrible rappers that you shouldn't be listening to. And I was like, I can't compete with those guys as far as budget goes. But if I put something together, and maybe some of the youth that I was administering to could listen to it to get some theology off of the music, the medium that they like. And I now notice that I think some of those youth are not really interested in my music, but I have two demographics that are interested in it. For some reason, is like families with kids. It's what I always get. Hey, when it's time to do the chores, we play your music, and the kids love, they're dancing and doing the chores. I said, that's great. And then the other one is the guys who lift. I notice guys who are lifting love playing my music, and Dad's like, hey,
I like it for the treadmill too.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, anybody. If I can pump somebody up to the music, and they don't have to subconsciously pick up horrible content, I'm all for it.
Think now would be a good time for me to play what my kids thought of your music?
Yeah, go ahead.
That's recorded, ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
See if you can hear it or not. This is my oldest talking. Let's see.
You love all your songs. They are very, very good. They're like my favorite songs. We love you.
Oh,
that was my oldest.
That's awesome, man. That's so cool.
And then here is my second oldest. I asked him what he thought.
I love your songs so much.
And then my daughter is 4, so she's got probably the tiniest voice of the 3.
Sacred Heart is my favorite song. Thank you.
Yep.
That's the sweetest thing I've ever heard, man. So what are the ages? How old are you?
I've got 5 kids. The 2 that are younger than those 3, there's no way I was going to try and have them record anything.
Right. You got 5. I have 5 too as well, so we got the same amount.
Yeah, my 7-year-old turns 8 in May, and then I've got a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a not quite 1-year-old.
We're very similar, extremely similar. Yeah, my oldest is 10. I got a 10, 8, 6. 2 and 10, 8, 6, 3, and now a 3-month-old.
I always get dirty looks when I can't remember my kids' birthdays at the doctor's office, and I'm like, I got 5. Give me a break.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah.
And 3 of them are in the same month, so that doesn't help.
Yeah, I'll leave that up to the wife. She remembers everything.
But yeah, it's fun having a bunch of kids. Like I wouldn't trade that for the world. I love it.
So you have 3 boys, 2 girls?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. All right. Perfect.
You did that math pretty quick there. That was pretty pretty quick. And actually, it's funny you said like starting the family thing led to you pretty much quitting the music for a while there. I had a very, very similar situation occur, but it actually started when I started dating my wife and getting a real job. Because I was really into music from about 2005 to about 2014.
Really? So what type of music were you playing?
Everything. I did some country stuff. I did some rap stuff. I did some rock stuff. I was in like 3 different bands at one point in time. I even had an offer from a record label at one point in time, but it was the worst contract I've seen in my life. So I didn't sign it, and then my career tanked anyways, so it didn't matter.
What do you play?
I actually do mostly. I produce.
Okay.
That's what I like to do.
Nice.
I don't even I never even charged anybody for the production I used to do, but I produced for quite a few people that I grew up with actually.
Okay.
And I do my own beats.
Sure.
I'm okay at the piano.
Yeah.
I used to play a lot of like woodwind instruments like the saxophone. I played the clarinet, the oboe. My brother was more of the stringed instrument guy, but he did like the viola and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that was mostly what I played when I played instruments. I tried the guitar for a while, but I have a hard time with the guitar actually. Okay.
Oh, it's so interesting because once you learn the piano pretty well, the guitar it's a little bit easier to pick up.
I'm okay. Like I said, I'm okay with the piano. Like I'm dangerous enough where I can play chords and sing along with the chords.
Yeah.
But I'm not like I've never had enough time to really get good at it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So producing was your strong suit.
Yes, I use a program called Mixcraft. You ever heard of it?
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time with that. I had Melodyne too. You know what
Okay.
Melodyne is?
Yeah.
I also had Auto-Tune, which everybody has access to that, it seems like these days.
Right. Yeah. Everyone's got access to it. Yeah.
Actually, when I was in college, I was writing a program where if you sang to your phone, this never came out because I got some legal and threatening letters that I had to kill the project.
Not bad,
Mostly
huh?
because I had reverse engineered how Auto-Tune works, and they didn't like that, so that was fun.
Get out of here! You did that?
Yes. It's
awesome.
very complicated math, but basically the way that the program was working was if you sang to your phone, it would grab the auto-tuned version of the note you sang, and it would put it to a MIDI file that you could play back as an instrument. So it was. I tried to sell it. Nobody would take me up on it, and then I had to kind of kibosh the whole thing. So
Don't they have that now?
I think they do.
I saw that.
Somebody probably saw it back in 20. When did I do this? 2012. 2012 time frame, and they probably just built it themselves.
Oh
That's
man,
probably
they
what
just had the
happened.
budget for the patent, huh?
Oh, definitely. I did not have budget for a patent as a broke college kid. That is for sure.
You had the brains.
I had something working with Band-Aids and tape.
Yeah.
It would have taken a lot more work to make it work well all the time.
You MacGyvered the whole thing.
I basically yes.
Yeah, that's cool.
I spent a lot of time on that. But
No, that's brilliant.
That was for a mobile app design class I was in at the time.
Yeah. Did you put anything out?
Music wise?
Yeah.
I have some stuff. I've actually sent you a few in the chat. I
Okay.
wasn't sure if you'd had a chance to look at it. It's been a very, like I said, last time I actually put something out seriously was 2014, and it was a cover of House of the Rising Sun.
Okay.
So not Catholic, definitely not Catholic.
Yeah.
But,
are you looking to pick it back up, or?
Maybe a little bit. I've thought about it quite a bit.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I would definitely want to go for more of like a Catholic thing, but I also don't want to. I don't want to like jump in and into the waters without knowing what I'm getting into. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely recommend that. Jump in the waters. Don't even.
My kids have heard some of my old stuff from when I was producing, and they're like, "That's good, Dad, but you should do more like what Enoch does."
Is that what they said?
That's what they said. Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to hear you your hip hop stuff.
So I did do a hip hop song in the last 5 years, but it was a parody of. I'm sure you've heard of Lil Nas X, right?
Yeah.
So I did a parody of his Old Town Road.
Yeah.
And it was about the Halo video games. So,
Okay.
Because I used to do a video game channel. I was heavy into the video game content. I've interviewed tons of like the gaming content creators and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so at the time I was like, all right, we'll just do a Halo parody for fun. Because I liked Halo a lot. And I really haven't. It's funny I say this now because I haven't touched a video game in almost 2 years, it seems like. But at the time, it was like 2021 time frame. I put this parody out. And then the official Halo company shared it on their blog.
No way.
So it went from like 5 views to like 1,500, and it's just plateaued from there.
Oh man.
So I can send you that. That's the most recent thing I did.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it. Yeah, I'd love to hear that. Maybe you should send it to Ninja. I heard he's Catholic.
Ninja, yeah, they're from the same area I'm from, kind of.
Okay.
But
yeah, his brother is going to be at the Catholic Creator Conference.
Yeah, he goes by Bearded Blevins, right?
Yeah. I'll be there too.
They're huge Detroit fans because they're from a similar area that I'm from.
Yeah. I heard they get invited to the games and all that stuff. Which is really cool.
But I don't think Ninja has time for little old me, so there's that. But
I get it.
if he did, I'd happily have him on to discuss his faith. I've got a few of the gaming content creators I used to collab with.
Yeah.
But I know in the background they're Catholic, and they don't tell anybody that. I'm trying to get them to come out on my show and tell everybody how they're Catholic and about their faith, but we'll see. It's going to depend on what they want to do. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. If you're Catholic, you should wear it.
I agree, and I spent a good 2-3 years. Like I never hit it, but it was like it was set on the back burner, and it just ate away at me that I wasn't talking about my faith, which is why I finally launched this.
Well, good for you, man. God, it was really knocking on your conscience.
Yeah. So this is what I'm putting most of my effort into this at this point, as far as like hobbies and stuff.
Yeah.
But we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. You interviewed Anthony.
Yeah, I did Anthony, and before that I did Kyle Whittington.
Oh, Kyle's the first guy, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
And
didn't get to know with Kyle.
I had to reprocess his episode and Anthony's episode to balance the audio. So hopefully the audio is relatively balanced for this one.
That sounds good to me. You sound like you're coming through pretty fine.
Well, I've got.
You mentioned Little Nas X. I did a response to him. I don't know if you saw
I've
that.
seen that one.
You saw that one? Yeah, I did a response to because he was dressed as Christ with a crown of thorns.
Oh no, I did see that. Yeah, that was disgusting.
Yeah, eating wafers as if
That was disgusting. That was almost as bad as my governor deciding to eat a Dorito or feed a Dorito chip as if it was like the Eucharist to some random podcaster. Did you see that? It was bad.
Yeah. Was it Whitmer, right? Is that her name?
Yeah, Whitmer. Yeah, she's not my favorite. Let's put it that way.
No, I mean I get it. I mean I came from Newsom, so
yeah.
Yeah.
They're competing for the
Yeah.
prize on that one. That's for
we
sure.
got Bashir here in Kentucky. He's Democrat, but he's
a Kentucky Democrat.
a Kentucky Democrat. Okay, so he pretends to be. He pretends to be moderate. He's as left as they come.
Is he?
But he is. But he has to be moderate here in order for him to get reelected.
Okay.
To get elected. But the name Bashir, I guess I didn't know this, but in Kentucky, the Bashir is like it's like the Kennedys for Kentucky. Like his dad, I think, was a governor too. So they have a lot of pull here. But we have such a majority in the House, State House, and Senate that's conservative here. That's conservative as conservative.
Yeah.
That his hands are pretty much tied. They have veto power over what he does and all that stuff. So he hasn't gone too crazy around here because he knows he can't, which is good.
That's good. Did you throw in the private chat the stuff you were talking about earlier?
Yeah, I did. I sent it to you.
So I'm not sure. StreamYard, does it allow you to share sound?
It does. I don't know as far as copyright stuff goes or not. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a good call.
Yeah.
All right,
You can just name them if you want. I'll just
Yeah.
we'll have like a tier system if you want. So
do you have a one of those tier makers we could throw up on the screen?
I don't know, no. But we can go like decent,
Okay.
good, great, go.
So we'll scale them. All right.
Yeah, we'll scale them. Yeah. So
Okay.
tell the people what we're talking about. I have no idea what we're talking about.
So there's a bunch of Catholic rappers out there in general. I feel like a lot of people who know Enoch may not know these other Catholic rappers. So it'd be good for us to point them out and let Enoch rank them on his system.
Yes.
So you're saying you got good.
So decent, good, great. Yeah.
Oh, great. We're going up. So good is the bottom. We're being very charitable.
Yeah. So we'll do decent,
I'm just kidding.
decent, good, great, goat. Goat is the greatest ever.
Goat is Enoch. No, I'm just kidding.
No, not me.
In my boat, you're up there with whoever the heck you're gonna pick. So
I appreciate you, man.
all right, so I'm just gonna roll through these rappers here. Now, is the name right after rappers a rapper name, or is that?
Yep.
Okay. So we'll start with Communion.
Communion. Good.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
Joe Melendrez. Or is it Melendez?
Melendrez.
Okay.
For charity purposes, we're gonna go decent, but I would go under if I could, but yeah.
Okay. All right. How about Salu?
Salu's great.
Val Mural? Is it Mural or Morale?
Morale, he's great.
Morale. Okay.
Yeah.
Is it S-Mind or S-Mind?
S-Mind is great. He's actually a super. He's not only an MC. He's a great lyricist and a great rapper, but he's also probably the best Catholic producer ever.
So this is S-Mind.
Yeah.
Right,
He's a phenomenal beat maker.
Does S-Mind stand for something?
S-Mind, I'm gonna have to ask him. I think it does. He explained it to me one time. It's really complicated. That's how smart he is. I'll have to ask him again what that means.
I would be curious.
Yeah.
So you got John Levi.
Oh, John Levi is like phenomenal, like great.
Some of these I've definitely heard of. C26.
C26 is great.
He's been on some of your tracks, right?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. It's Prodigal.
Prodigal's great too.
All right, I am going to murder this name. Prodricito?
Sorry, Padrecito.
Padrecito. Oh,
Yeah,
Padrecito. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
Padrecito.
gonna say-
Padrecito's good. Yeah.
So is it Padrecito or Pradrecito?
Padrecito. I probably spelled
Padre.
it wrong. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you get Prod in the front. It's messing me up. All right. Cody Free,
Cody Fee's great. Yeah.
Acolyte,
Acolyte's pretty good. He's great.
Nico,
Nico is great. Phenomenal rapper.
and we got Father Stan.
Goat.
And I'm gonna throw a couple other guys that I've seen.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's not right. No, never mind. Those guys are not rappers. I'm not gonna throw them out there.
Oh, throw them out there. Let's see if I heard of them.
There's a couple of priests I've seen online that have been putting out like either parodies or music, but I think that's more of what they do. I don't think they actually do produce.
Oh,
music.
I see. Yeah.
And
Okay.
like you got like Father David Michael puts out a lot of stuff, but I don't think he actually writes any of it. So I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, I think I don't know, because he does like this pro-life charity event
Yeah.
where he has like he is all the priest musicians are on there too. So I don't know exactly if it's his stuff that he writes or he just does like covers.
Yeah. So I think he's got some stuff out there. I just don't know if he wrote it.
Okay. Yeah.
I could be right. I could be wrong. So I'm just gonna say I like the content he puts out, and he actually has something really. So like I know he's not a quote unquote trad priest, but he's got some really good commentary on how to get more priests in the church. Let me know what you think of this. He said basically that if people aren't showing the reverence to the Eucharist, people aren't going to want to be priests.
Yeah, I mean you can't argue with that.
So like when I heard that, I was still taking communion on the tongue, but I started going down on my knees every single time. So
Nice.
when my kids see me, going up for communion, they know I'm taking it seriously. And I don't care if there's a kneeler or not. I go down on my knees every time.
Nice. I like that. Yeah, with the fraternity, you have no choice. You go on, you kneel for communion. When we do go to the Novus Ordo, because we have to for convenience purposes, because it's an hour away, whole days of obligation. We try to make it, but sometimes it's just not possible to do. Myself, my whole family, my kids, we kneel to receive, and it's just they just know that's what they do. It's just that's what they're used to. They don't need any other way.
We're probably about 90-10 Novus Ordo versus Latin Mass, but I do really like the Latin Mass a lot.
Cool. Yeah. No, it's. I mean, to me, it's my kids can tell the difference, and they prefer the TLM, which is really cool. There's no Eastern Rite parish here for me to go to be honest with you.
Is that what you grew up going to?
No, we grew up Novus Ordo a lot, to be honest. I didn't really find the tradition until 2016. I started going exclusively to the TLM. But we lived so far away because we were in Nova San Diego. We were almost like 45 minutes to an hour. So we went to the local Novus Ordo parish. That's the parish I ended up working in as a director of youth ministry. So that was the parish I ended up working in. So, but when I found the tradition, I started driving about an hour to St. Anne's with my family. But I was married at the time.
If you don't mind, I'll tell a story real quick.
Yeah, of course, man. Go ahead.
So growing up, all right, so my dad does not attend any specific mass at all anymore, so there's that. But growing up, I would always hear stories from him because he grew up pre-Vatican II. So he was an altar server for the Latin Mass before we got the Novus Ordo.
Right.
And he would always talk about how great the priests were, but he would always complain that he couldn't understand anything. Mm-hmm. And so that mindset to me seems like it might have been prevalent in the church during the council. Although my dad, like I said, he doesn't really take his faith all that seriously in general, so there's that. But I grew up hearing stories about, he would make fun of that stuff, because he's like, oh, it's so great that we've moved to the vernacular, even though he doesn't go to church anymore. So what do you care anyways? But so my first time going to a Latin Mass wasn't until 2021.
Okay.
That was the first time I ever went. And I was blown away. I honest to God could not believe this was what my dad was describing. So I went back and I looked it up. And at one point in time, they had to make it like an invalid mass if a priest got through it in less than 15 minutes. So clearly we had issues going into the council.
Yeah, it was being rushed by a lot of the priests at the time. Yeah. And then the question becomes, do you just correct that, or do you just completely, gut it and build a new liturgy out of that? But if you look at, I guess the Sacrosanctum Concilium,
it doesn't describe the Novus Ordo.
It doesn't. It actually, to me, if you look at it, it actually describes the 1962 missile more than it does the Novus Ordo. If you look at it.
Have you heard that they actually had an in-between missile?
Yeah,
during
the 65
council?
missile. Yeah, the Palm
And
6
they
missile.
do
Yeah.
have a recorded version of that on
Okay.
YouTube.
Yeah.
I think it was a funeral mass, or it was like
Yeah.
one of the, I think it was one of the, either the Pope's or Archbishops was presiding over it, and it looks very different from the Novus Ordo. And it's like,
Yeah.
so how do we get from the 62 to the 65
To
to the
69.
Novus Ordo?
Yeah.
It's like, what in the world? So
Yeah, it is interesting how that happened. I think there's a lot of, I think it's after the councils, there were certain committees that were meeting that actually were in, in odds at one another. And I think Ratzinger talks about this too. You had your Hans Kuhn and those guys, and you, who else is it? It's Hans Kuhn, Ronner, and those guys. They were kind of trying to, in a way, modernize a lot of. They were using Vatican II as a vehicle to do that. Then you had the other side. A lot of the Dominicans were kind of like, we want to keep it as traditional as possible. Because a lot of, I mean, people can say what they want about the bishops, especially the conservative, the traditional bishops of Vatican II. All of them signed off on the documents because all of them had a certain understanding of how they were going to be implemented. And the issue was a lot of the stuff that we're seeing right now actually happened even before the council.
yeah,
Like the holding hands during the Our Father. I think that came from Belgium. And it was like the teen. It was like the youth stuff that they were doing it. Priests were turning around versus populum against at Orientum even before the council. You were starting to see some of these changes before the council, but
everybody wants to blame the council, but when you actually look at what the council put out, it doesn't match necessarily all the changes that were made.
It doesn't, especially the liturgical changes. Like it didn't call for versus populum. It didn't call for Latin to be discontinued. It didn't call for.
It's supposed to prefer Latin.
Prefer Gregorian chant.
Right.
It didn't call for communion in the hands. Like none of that stuff was on there.
So what you're saying is blame the boomers. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, but it's funny because people will always say it's not so much the documents from the council; it's the implementation.
Yeah,
and people can play devil's advocate, and they would say, "Well, it was the same bishops who wrote these, the same bishops who signed off, are the same ones who implemented, after the document." So I guess in a way, you kind of can blame some of the bishops in the council,
sure,
because they're the ones who implemented. They signed off on the stuff, but then they gave us something that was different.
I heard an interesting argument about the changes and whatnot, and this came from a very trad friend of mine, but he basically said there's valid and there's reverent, and they're not the same thing necessarily.
They're not the same thing. Yeah,
there's nothing necessarily wrong with going to Novus Ordo, which I agree. There's nothing wrong with going to Novus Ordo. You'll never hear me say don't go to the Novus Ordo.
Oh, me neither. Yeah,
but I do agree that there is valid and there's reverent, and clearly they're not always the same thing.
Right. That's a good point. You also get. My wife and I were talking about this just a couple of days ago. You get some of the folks who will say, the Mass is the Mass, the Eucharist is the Eucharist. It doesn't really matter. Well, I don't agree with that.
Right.
And the reason I don't agree with that, because if that was your logic and that's your frame of thinking, then why is the Reverent Novus Ordo what we're chasing after? Because if the Mass is the Mass, the Eucharist is the Eucharist, the Clown Mass and the Reverend Novus Ordo are the same. So, but because
I think if you had a lot of the young priests that are doing the Reverent Novus Ordo, if you gave them the option to say the Latin Mass, a lot of them would choose to do it at least once every weekend.
That's an interesting point. I think
because
you're
a
right.
lot of the Reverent Novus Ordos are coming from the young priests.
They are. Yeah, they are. No, I think there's some hope in the future of the church. I mean, I'm an optimistic person to begin with. I'm not a doomer. But
right.
To me, it's like of course there's hope because Christ is the head of the ship.
Right.
So
exactly.
It's beyond this mediocre rapper in the middle of Kentucky who's an Eastern writer to try to determine what the church should and shouldn't do.
We're gonna upgrade you from mediocre to at least good. My goodness.
At least good.
At least good.
Thank you, thank you. Hey, I get the imprimatur from your kids. That's all I need, man. It's I get this approval. So, but yeah, I personally prefer the TLM over the Reverend Nova Soto. But if I didn't have the TLM with me, I would give me the Reverend Nova Soto all day long. Which is what's so sad about the state of the church we are today. I got to pass about 15 Nova Soto parishes just to get to my TLM because none of them were reverent. They're all just your typical Nova Soto, which I don't think is good for my kid, for my family.
I will say the Novus Ordos that are in my area, the bulk of them are reverent. But we
You're in Michigan, right?
We have a lot of young priests in the area I live in.
Yeah, my brother actually told me like he could go because my brother's in Michigan too. Elijah.
Okay.
He's in Detroit, and he'll tell me.
He's not far from me. Maybe if I do bring him on, we could do something in person. That'd be fun.
Yeah, maybe. You should talk to him. I try to get you connected with him. He's in West Bloomfield, so.
Okay, yeah, he's not too far.
Yeah,
maybe an hour and a half or so from me.
That's not too bad. Yeah. So he did say that there's you know if you want Eastern Rite, you go to Eastern Rite over there. If you want a Reverend Nova Soto,
there is everything except the Ordinariate.
Is that right?
Yes, you can try if you want to go Ordinariate. Michigan is not the place to be.
Okay,
let's put it that way.
Yeah,
but they do have we got ICKSP. We've still got diocesan TLMs.
Yep.
Probably not for too much longer unless things change. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
And then there is actually some SSPXs, but those are like an hour and a half, 2 hours from where I live.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, there is Eastern Rite. That is one of the cool things. They're like, I think there's St. George, is about good 2 hours north of me, ish. I thought about going there. I thought it'd be pretty neat to go see a Eastern Rite one.
Is it a Chaldean or?
It is Chaldean, yeah.
Okay, Chaldean, yeah. There's Chaldean.
There's St. George Chaldean Catholic Church.
Right. There's a Syriac church too over there if you're interested.
Is there a big difference between the Syriac and the Chaldean Rite?
Not a huge difference, no.
Okay.
No, not a huge difference. Both in Aramaic. There's some.
They have English too.
That's right. Too. They do, yeah. Which is funny because when I have my kids, when I baptize them, I have to fly these Syriac priests down to Kentucky.
Oh, really?
To baptize, yeah.
Because you are baptized in the Syriac, or
I'm baptized in the Syriac, baptized and confirmed in the Syriac, First Communion. So all of my kids are baptized, confirmed.
Do you speak fluent Aramaic then?
So here's the thing: I can understand it really well.
Okay.
So here's what's funny. So there's difference. So there's Aramaic, there's Chaldean, there's Arabic.
Yeah, I would mix those all up. I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, that's which is funny because if you so Aramaic and Chaldean are very kind of similar. Arabic and Chaldean, like in Arabic and Syriac language, is Spanish English. Like that's how different they are. So
in some of my classes, I sat next to there would be a Chaldean on my right and an Arabic person on my left.
I'm so sorry, brother.
I would hear all kinds of crazy. I've got some crazy stories from my time in Dearborn. Let's just put it that way.
Okay. Yeah, Elijah says Chaldean is a modern dialect of Aramaic, which is correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a cousin of it. But Aramaic. So when I was watching The Passion, a lot of the Aramaic stuff, I don't need the subtitles. Yeah, I could really understand. I can't really speak it that well, but I can speak Chaldean pretty well.
Yeah, because I have a similar experience with Latin. I can understand a decent chunk of it, but don't ask me to speak it or write it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I'm the same way actually. I can understand it pretty well, but my Latin's not great.
So, there was something. Oh, all that to say. Yeah. So one of the biggest changes that I can tell you and you, I'm sure you'll agree, but I'm going to let you say your piece on it, is the music changes from the 60s to the 70s.
The culture or church or the
church.
Liturgical? Oh, the liturgical. Oh, yeah.
Church.
Oh, it's horrific.
There was a point in time where if I walked into a church, I heard the twang of the guitar, I walked out. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Good man. I don't blame you.
Many times.
I don't blame you.
I knew immediately, and it's actually not because of the guitar itself.
Yeah.
That's not why. The reason is because the music does not match what's going on in the liturgy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. The mood isn't right. The emotion isn't right. It's almost always just happy folk songs. And I'm like, you're playing a happy folk song during the sacrifice of the Mass. What is wrong with you?
Exactly. Exactly.
And that's
yeah.
my problem. It's like it's
Right.
such a dissonant feeling.
Right. Right. That's why chant is the perfect form of expression.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think chant. You can add the pipe organ if you need to, but chant stands on its own.
Well, the organ, because it has the organ, and maybe you know this, so jump in if you know this already, but I don't know if the
It
audience
mimics the
does.
voice. It mimics the.
Yes,
Yeah. Right.
which
Right.
is why it's
Right.
the preferred instrument for
Right. You're
liturgical
absolutely right.
reasons.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. You know that a lot of people don't know that. That's what's really cool.
I
Yeah.
have a very close friend who is a music director, and he's very into very traditional music. So,
Oh yeah.
yes.
Good for him,
He
man. We
tries
gotta.
to insert as much chant as possible into
We
Nova
need.
Sordo.
We need him around. Then you got people like Mercy Divine. You heard of them?
I think so, yeah. Didn't you do a
Yes.
track with them?
I did a track with them,
Yeah.
Kira and her husband. Man, this
Yeah.
coolest people you'll meet. Phenomenal. They're in Ohio, so I'll end up when I go to the creator conference. Kyle gave me the thumbs up, so I'll be performing over there. I guess they're kind of like shutting down the is it St. Paul Street, I think what it's called, or something
that's
like
cool.
that. At Superville, and then we're doing like a concert. I think Emma Frad's going to be there. So we'll do a concert. I've got Mercy Divine coming up to do a track with me up there, and maybe do a couple of songs on their own up on
That's
stage.
awesome.
They are, because she had a phenomenal conversion. Her and her husband used to write music for record labels. They wrote music for what's her name, Ashley Simpson. Like they were big. Like
Really?
yeah, they were like huge. Like
Huh.
they wrote her like #1 single. Like it was a hit. So they had a big conversion, changed everything up. Now they do liturgical music, but they are as reverent as you're gonna get. Their style of it's more Novus or like Reverend Novus Ordo,
Mhm.
but their style is as closest to chant as you're gonna get, but it's still, I guess you would call Novus Ordo style music, but it's extremely well done.
Do you know who else has recently converted and started writing music for the Mass?
Who?
Marty O'Donnell. Do you know who that is?
No.
He wrote the Gregorian chant intro for the Halo games.
Get out. Really?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, on some of his videos, there are people commenting who said, your Gregorian chant made me look into Catholicism and convert. So, like, he had a big impact on a lot of people.
Wow.
And if you just look up the Halo theme song, it sounds like a Gregorian chant.
Sure.
It really
yeah,
does. Have
Sure.
you ever played Halo at all?
No. But I've heard some of the ambiance.
Yes. So he
Yeah.
wrote, well, along with Michael Salvatore, but he wrote a lot of the Halo music up through
Get out.
the Bungie era ending and 343 becoming a thing. So like almost through like the early 2011, 2012 time frame.
Yeah.
And so like that, he got that idea like from like a Gregorian chant type of thing. And over the years, it eventually, I guess, led to his conversion to Catholicism. So he is an interesting dude. And he's writing liturgical music. He did what was being asked during the council with that, what is it, Sacrosanctum Concilium?
Yeah.
He followed that with the way he writes his music.
Get out. Really?
Yes, I'll have to send you the one that I've seen, because he even wrote, I think he wrote like free to use for anybody. Like he doesn't care.
Okay, that's cool. I like that. That's a good way to do it. That's so cool, man. I love hearing stuff like that.
So he did his own. He did his own, like the Kyrie eleison.
Yeah.
He did his own version of that for a choir to do, and it sounds great.
No way. I gotta hear that. See, I love hearing that type of chant, or just music that was inspired by the Mass. I heard Cody, I think is his name, Cody, when he wrote. You remember Rocky?
Yeah.
Some of the
like
sound, the Rocky soundtrack.
Yeah.
He did the final bell. You remember that one?
I.
And
Not
you know, it goes
off the
bum
top
bum
of
bum 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 bum.
Oh yes,
bum,
yes,
bum,
yes,
bum.
yeah.
He actually said he wrote that whole piece off of the inspiration of the Latin Mass.
That's awesome.
Because he said Rocky when he was watching the movie when he was writing this, he said Rocky to me looked like the liturgy because it was bloody, it was sacrificial. And he was inspired by this. So anybody who's inspired by the liturgy and come up with a piece like that, I'm always in awe with it. So
Very cool.
yeah.
So I think you've discussed this on another podcast, but just for fun, since we both know music relatively well, the syncopation of rap, and what that does to the human body when you hear it.
Yeah.
You want to kind of talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's something I'm very aware of. You know, I always say
It's like a subconscious thing, isn't it?
it really is. But even if there was no cadence or words to this, the beat itself is for the passions generally, which I think has a rightful place for it. Like I always say, like if you listen, like you're a different animal. Like I have highly great respect for you. If you're listening to lectures of Scott Hahn on the Covenant while you're lifting weights, and you're inspired by that, and you're hitting your max, brother, you're an animal, and I have respect for you. I can't do that,
Yeah.
So hip hop, driving type of beat. If you're sitting in the car or your family is doing chores at night and you're playing something that's kind of more upbeat, kind of fun, I think hip hop really drives that mood.
It's almost got a mechanical piece to it.
It is. It's what it is. It's a driving mechanical. It's really for the lower faculties. It's really for the passions. It's great for working out. Great for running. Great for just having a good time. If you're driving in a car, or whatever. Sunday night, Sunday after mass, and you're just going home and you play. Claim it, live it. It's a fun. It's a fun genre. Do I think that it should be listened to at all times? No, I think it should be in moderation. And even then, what should be listened to in moderation is the good content hip hop. Like if you listen to, and I would also say be careful with the Christian when it comes to the Christian hip hop, because although they do talk about Christ, the problem with it is their theology is off. Yeah,
I wonder if Jason would agree with that. Roll harder at jiu-jitsu with the hip hop.
It's really what it's for, So my thing is like, listen, if you like, I like classical. If I'm smoking a cigar, and I'm drinking a cup of coffee, I like Dave Brubeck. I don't know if you heard of him.
That sounds really familiar. I'd have to look him up though.
You Take Five, he's very jazz orchestra type of stuff. Okay. Yeah, I like that type of music. I like chant. I like classical. Like that's what I listen to mostly if I'm at home.
You like Sam Cooke?
Oh yeah.
He's one of my favorites from back then.
Oh yeah, Sam Cooke is great. It's and beyond that, like I love Motown. Like if anybody would ask me what my favorite genre of music was, it's Motown. I love Motown. But if I'm at the gym, I need a little bit more. That's me personally.
Yeah.
And that's what it's become. And so for me, it's like, all right, I guess I know how to rap. I could do certain cadence. The fun for me is not so much the flow or the cadence or trying to come up with the melody. Although that's fun, that just comes naturally. It's like a sixth sense that somebody just has. When I hear a beat, there's a sixth sense that you have. Okay, here's a melody off of this beat, right? Motown was the first boom bap. I could see that. For me, it's the wordplay that really makes it fun.
Yes,
like
the double entendres, the triple entendres.
Triple entendres. That's what I really love doing. Like for example, can I share one with you? Because I'm doing a track right now I'm doing a track with Voice of Reason. You heard of him, Alex, Voice of Reason?
Yeah.
Or some people call him Rocky.
Voice.
Yeah. Me and Enoch are doing a song together. So yeah, super cool guy. I know he was just on a podcast. I know
George
Anthony
Janko, right?
Yeah, had some issues with him, and I do agree a lot with Anthony said when it comes to that podcast. I told Anthony in private. I said, I think you're right.
Sometimes you gotta give the hard takes and not be so ecumenical, because not everybody's going to be your friend, but you want everybody to at least get the right mindset on the faith.
That's correct. Yeah. If it's a private conversation, I think that would have been a great conversation to have with George.
Yeah.
But the fact that there's possibly that millions of people will view that, they might view Catholicism as watered down.
You don't want to have the faith appear weak.
That's it. I think that was Anthony's point, and I kind of agree with that. And I have no problem. I had no problem telling Voice of Reason that, But he's such a kind-hearted guy that he would take that criticism to heart. Like that's how cool he is. And he's a rapper too. Like he's actually a bar for bar decent rapper. Like he likes the wordplay, he likes lyrics, type of stuff. He grew up with the Wu-Tang type of style. So I'm doing a song with him, and my opening line is they bring pain, I'm in chain, my sin brain is in chain. So they bring pain, They bring pain. Hold on, sorry. I always do this. They bring pain, I'm in chain. My sin brain is in range for dim place, but spring came and ingrained his grace. Undisputed, he vingrained because I fall short like a copy of King James. So you got the multi-syllable, right? But it's the whole gospel. Like they bring pain, I'm in chain. My sin brain is in range for dim place, but spring came. So you got all that going on. But you go down a little bit into that verse. I say, the elite eat entrees for 3 G's while the rest of us is grubbing on fast food, which means no matter how you cut it is bad news because bad dudes could shove it ahead because America got a bad dude. So what that means, so the elite eat entrees for 3 G's, right? Andre 3000, you remember him from okay. The elite eat entrees for 3 G's while the rest of it eating fast food. No matter how you cut it, is bad news because bad dudes should cover their head because America got a bad dude, right? Erica Badu was married to Andre 3000. So you got the whole triple, quadruple entendre going around with a message. And that's what I love about hip hop the most, because beyond the music, beyond the beats, hip hop at first is lyrical. If your lyrical content is not up there, I don't want to hear you, because I don't care about your little cadence with the little stutter with these the new rappers with the. I'm not interested in that mumble stuff.
You're talking about, like, what is that guy's name that just literally like just it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think what the guy's name is though, because I heard a track by him years ago and I was just like, what's the hype with this? He speaks fast.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's all it is. He speaks fast, but there's no lyrical content to it. There's one syllable rhymes. There's no content to it. It's just it's boring.
You're making me think back through the lyrics I used to write. The way that, like, I'm starting to think back through some of the stuff I used to write. Like, oh man, I'm so rusty. If I try to do it on stream, it's gonna sound terrible.
I'll just say it. I'd love to hear it.
All right.
Kind of decode this thing.
Let me get into this. I just got the 2 first lines from one of the last ones I did. It was, "Man, it's been a while since I laced the shoes. I'm all tied up. I got nothing to lose." That was how I started it off, because I really didn't. I had nothing to lose. I wasn't even producing music. You know what I mean?
That's the double entendre right there. At least you had the double, laces and tied up.
Oh, there was a lot more to do with that after that, but I don't think it's necessarily appropriate for this podcast.
I see. Okay. Yeah.
But that was like one of my favorite ways to lead a song in, was something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's to me is the funnest part about it all, is just trying to decode that. And I don't know if you heard the one with the I had a song on the last album called Daily Bread.
Yeah. You were talking about that. Is that the one where you did the Cardinals?
Yes. Yeah. It was like a city hip hop, and then the Walking Phoenix one.
I was there for your live stream describing it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so
I don't think I had any chats in there because I was too busy doing something else while I was listening. But
yeah, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The first album had a song called Joker Faso. I'm sorry, not Joker Faso. Forgive me. That was on the third album. That
was your Church in Africa album, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was Kanisa.
Kanisa,
that's right. The first album I had a song called Saint Alphonsus.
Okay.
And on there, I had a couple of double entendres. Wasted grace like I stole gifts. Walk my way to hell if the soul fits.
That's got something to do with the Orthodox or something else?
Well, no, it's because, walk my way to the hell if the soul fits, like the soul walking, the soul of the feet.
Yeah.
But the other one,
what was the stolen grace part then?
No, it was just saying. I'm just saying, like, I wasted my grace like I stole gifts, like I
stole.
Yeah, like I stole gifts. Walk my way to hell if the soul fits. But on there, I actually got it. It wasn't so much a dig at the good bishop, because I have nothing against him.
Yeah.
But I did say on there, people talking about that hell is barren.
Yeah. And there was that whole conversation where Pope Francis wanted to.
Well, it was more Bishop Barron saying that hell could be empty.
Oh, he said
it
too.
Yeah, that's why I said hell was barren, because it was.
Oh man, I missed that. Yeah,
it was a double entendre with Bishop Barron. So,
well, Pope Francis ended up saying the same thing later on. He's like, we hope that hell is empty. Essentially, it was something along those lines. I don't want to misquote him, but I remember him saying he prays that hell is empty. Which, I mean, that's noble, but we all know it's not.
It's not. Yeah. Well, first of all, we know the demons are in there, so it's not empty.
And we know Satan's there too.
Satan
at the very least, we know there's population down there.
There's Papa Lynch down there, and we at least know one. I think Jude. You can
Well, Judas probably. Yeah.
probably if you go off of scripture. I mean, if our Lord said it, I know it's probably true.
Yeah. Good point on that. Good
Yeah.
point on that.
You know, I think every good Christian heart wants hell to be empty.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
We
I
want
don't think there's
it.
anything wrong with wanting that.
What we want it, but it's just not the case. I just don't think it's the case.
We want a lot of things we can't have.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Obviously, you can want things and know that they're not true. So.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Yeah,
I
yeah,
think,
man. Yeah, I mean,
I don't want to hold you forever, but one last thing I wanted to pitch your way.
Go ahead.
I would love to hear a beat with the Miserere in it.
Yeah. So the person
I'd be
that
happy to try and produce it too.
if you want to produce it, I do it and just send it to me, and we'll put something together. Maybe you can do a verse on there.
I'd be happy to try. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, I'm collaborating with a lot of people now. To be honest with you, I collaborated with. It was a song called. It was a pro-life song inspired by Father Dave Nix.
Wait, was he on it, or are you saying it's about him?
No, he wasn't on. It was about him.
Okay.
I think it was Aquinas' son is the guy who.
Okay.
Yeah. Phenomenal song. I think it's a great song. He had me put a verse on there.
Okay.
On the song, Invaders, what it's called. Good song. Margaret Knapp, who's a phenomenal artist as well. She's a great vocalist, classically trained. She makes more like what do you call it, Anya type of feel. And she has a track that I'll be featured on there. But I got Voice of Reason featuring on one of the songs that's coming out. I always like to have all the people from Foundation, the Catholic rappers, C26, Nico, John Levi. I got a song coming out on April 14th called "The Blood of a Martyr."
I saw the album artwork for it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. I'm going to do a little music video on that one too, because I just want to bring awareness to the fact that our brothers and sisters are being persecuted in the Middle East. And one of these days,
one thing when I was going to school in Dearborn.
Yeah.
Multiple of the Chaldeans that I had become friends with were talking about their family being murdered over there, like seriously.
My uncle was kidnapped too. Yeah.
So I take that stuff seriously ever since then, and that was even before I had my reversion to the faith. I was hearing about all this stuff, and I was like, man, that is crazy. And then I'm like, when you're coming over here, why are you picking Dearborn? I mean, that's seems like a bad choice, but hey.
Yeah, where all the Muslims are at. Yeah. The food's good though, huh?
It is. It's very.
The food is phenomenal. Yeah.
You want to talk about a melting pot of food? Like that is a place where there is a serious amount of food. You can get pretty much anything you want there.
Yeah. What do you like Arabic dishes?
It depends on what you're talking about. Like,
okay. What do you have a favorite?
I can't tell you what the names of them are.
Okay.
Because I never ordered for myself.
Yeah.
So let's put it that way.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even like, I love like a good shawarma sandwich. Like that's just.
Yeah. Okay. So shawarma, am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah.
I did really like, in fact, is shawarma the one where when you go into the restaurant, they have it like hanging up and you can cut it right off the thing?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so that was very good.
Yeah.
And I would have other people order it for me because there was a language barrier there. Let's put it that way.
No, that's okay. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, it's like me walking into a Mexican restaurant. Like, I gotta, it's all these names and all of these things.
As long as you know Donde style baño.
Where's the bathroom?
Yeah, exactly. You're good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I love all that kind of stuff, man. In San Diego, there was an Ethiopian restaurant that I love eating at too.
That I've never tried.
I just heard that there's one in Louisville, so I got to go to that. It's about an hour and a half away. I would drive an hour and a half for Ethiopian food.
Yeah, I have never had Ethiopian food. I've had Indian food. I've had
very similar
food. I've had actual traditional Chinese food because there was an exchange student from China. I was lab partners with him at one point in time, and he's like, "Have you had real Chinese food?" And I was like, "I think so." I mean, I listed a bunch of restaurants that claim to be Chinese, and he goes, "No, none of that's Chinese food." And so he takes me down the street to this like hole in the wall place. It's not even like advertised, and you go into this back door, and there's a full blown restaurant inside,
That's
and there is
awesome.
not a lick of English on any menu in there. And he's like, all right, you got like three choices, and I was like, okay, well, what are they? And he's like naming what it is and what this is and what that is.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, just pick for me. And it shows up. I have no idea what it is. Take a bite. I was like, this is delicious.
Yeah.
And I've never had
Wow.
anything taste like that in my life as far as from a Chinese restaurant, because it's always like the heavy MSG stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
But this was
Yeah.
really good. I was like, what the heck? And I never got to go
Authentic
back again because next semester I wasn't, we weren't in the same class anymore, but he was super cool.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, yeah. It's just the authentic food is there's nothing like it when you get it the way it was intended to by that culture. So
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. All right, I think there was one other thing I wanted to ask you.
Sure.
I've got you here. No, actually, it wasn't. The Be the Light song. So tell me, what inspired you to do that one?
Be the light. That's a good one. It was just the fact that because when you're online a lot, you get everything. Everybody
Absolutely.
everybody puts their life out. And one thing that I was noticing just throughout the years, to be honest with you, it wasn't just recently, it's throughout the years, is the fact that I think men suffer in silence.
Mhm.
And I think, we're taught at a young age that, you keep that stuff in, a real man keeps his stuff in. And I think there's a certain truth to that. Like, I don't think a man should go around just talking about his feelings all day long. I think there's a certain effeminacy in that.
He
Um,
probably wouldn't find himself a mate doing that.
No, you wouldn't. Yeah, and rightfully so. Women
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
really. But I think the fact that I think men are suffering in silence, and I think women attempt to delete themselves higher than men. The attempt is there,
Mhm.
and I think a lot of it is because they're crying out for help. But men actually, we're at a higher rate of actually going through it.
Successful at it.
The successful, unfortunately. So I was like, I know a lot of society are always just trying to pandering to women's issues. And I think men's issues don't get talked about a lot. And I think men suffer silently. And I don't care if you're a traditional Latin, mass going Catholic. I don't care if you're married, if you're conservative, if you're liberal, whatever. Every guy's got their issues. Every guy's got a period in a time where I think there's certain depression and overwhelming because there's a lot on our shoulders. If you're married and you got a boss, you got to answer to the boss, you got to answer to your friends, you got to be there for your family.
Absolutely.
And I think at the end of the day, men just want to know that I saw it somewhere. I forgot who said this, but I saw it. I think it was like, and when I saw it, I was like, I should write a song about this because I think this is perfect. He said that if those whom men work for, like the family, would just recognize that thank you for doing this, I think it would decrease the deleting yourself by 50%, if not more. And I think at the end of the day, men are just like just acknowledge the fact that I'm doing this on a daily basis, this grind. And I think my wife is so wonderful when it comes to this.
So is mine.
She's always thanking me for my work and doing everything that I got to do for the family, and vice versa, because she's awesome at what she does. And I think men would appreciate that a little bit more. And also, it was an opportunity for me to talk about on the song my favorite subject, which I think the church has dropped the ball throughout the years. I think Protestant apologetics has taken a front seat in the last, 3 decades when it comes to Catholicism. But the idea of holiness, redemptive suffering, and picking up your cross has really been, we've dropped that. We've dropped that big time. And if there's one thing that I noticed when I was doing youth ministry that the teenagers would resonate with the most is purpose. When you gave them a sense of purpose, because that's what the left does. It's like, hey, change your Instagram screen to black, and here's a constellation of visible return. I'm going to give you a purpose you can do. Join this cause and fight this climate and all that. So everybody's got a certain purpose. But in reality, I think when you give men this understanding is like, listen, like you're hurting right now, like you're depressed. Like if you took that and you said a prayer, you took that pain and then you fasted and prayed, because I honestly personally think that God does listen a lot to those who are really hurting and those who are really just away.
Oh yeah.
If you took that prayer in charity and prayed for somebody else, you could actually bring purpose to that suffering that you're going through, and you could change it into a redemptive suffering united with the cross. And now you're giving somebody purpose. And if you give somebody purpose, they have a reason to live. And that's what the song is really about, is redemptive suffering. It's like, that's why I said, when you're feeling low, when you're feeling alone, say a prayer for me. What I'm really saying is, like, listen, if you're hurting, if you're suffering, like, your prayers are powerful within that suffering. Say a prayer for other people, and I think it'll bring meaning to your life.
I can honestly say, as I've been reading through Butler's Lives of the Saints, their lives agree with everything you're saying.
Sure.
And they spent most of their lives fasting, praying, doing almsgiving, all the things that you're mentioning. And
right.
They had some of the biggest impacts on the planet.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they're so true. What was a podcast? I think it was a month ago. I was on Return of the King podcast. Return of the Kingdom, I think. Or Return of Tradition. I forgot what it's called.
Return to Tradition is a podcast. I'm not sure if that's the one you mean or not.
No, probably not the one. I think Return of the Kingdom. But we were talking about Colby, St. Colby, who I love. I've got a pretty decent devotion to.
He's my brother-in-law's confirmation saint.
Is that right? I love Colby. So for me, the hierarchy is St. Pio is my number one.
But his movie was terrible. Whatever that was, a couple years back.
Was Shia LaBeouf? Yeah, that was horrible. That was a horrible movie.
The few scenes with Shia LaBeouf in it were good.
Yeah.
And everything else was like, what is going on in this
What is going on?
Keep going.
If you want to see a good Pio movie, in 2003, they made one. It's all Italian with subtitles.
Oh, good.
I think it's called Miracle Worker or Miracle Man. It's one of the best saint movies I've ever seen. So that one I definitely recommend. But I was talking about the fact. Let me ask you this, Chris. You know what St. Colby is?
Yes, of course.
Now, you might be a history buff, so you might know this, but I don't know if most people would know this. Do you remember the general that ordered his death in the camp? Do you remember his name?
I know that he was converted later on, correct?
Yeah. But
no, I don't remember his name.
No, remember his name. Okay, so the fact that a man who had high status in when it comes to the world's understanding of high status, we don't remember his name, but we remember this scrawny man named Maximilian Kolbe. It goes to show you sainthood is so powerful that you don't have to do great things. You don't have to be a great general or a great king for you to be remembered by the world. You just have to do just what I call radical love. And I think that's the most important. The saint that you just talked about, all those saints, the reason we know their names is because of what they did for the sake of, charity, for the love of God and for the love of neighbor, for the sake of God. So I think to
quote a pretty awesome man, they gave what they had.
Gave what you had. Yeah.
Song, by the way.
I appreciate that. Yeah, that was Father Ripperger's dad dying was inspired that song.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So when Father Ripperger's father passed away, Father Ripperger gave a homily about his father. It's like, he said that his dad, he gave everything that he, what he had, so that's where that song really started to. It's what that was inspired by, was Father Ripperger's dad.
That one and your other memorial tribute, Jessica Hanna, right?
Yeah, man, that one hit home. That one hit home hard. Yeah, I'm gonna see Lamar in June. I'm actually gonna be in Michigan in June.
Really?
I'm gonna visit my brother for a whole week.
Okay,
I'll be there.
brother.
Yeah, I'll be there for a whole week. So yeah, if you wanna drive, if you meet for lunch or something, we can meet for lunch somewhere.
That'd be pretty cool, actually. I would like that.
Are you more south?
Yeah, I'm probably closer to Toledo than Detroit.
Okay.
I'm only maybe like an hour and a half from Detroit.
How far are you from Dearborn?
Probably about an hour.
Hour? We can meet in Dearborn if you want.
I'd be happy to do that at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think Dearborn is about like 45 minutes to an hour from where my brother is.
Dearborn's closer to Detroit. Yeah, I would say.
Yeah.
I'd love to. We just got to make sure that the schedule works for that.
Yeah. We'll shoot you a text message and we'll see if it works out. We'll meet up.
But on that note, I don't want to hold you. It's already 10:30. I don't want to hold you up all night.
You're good. Yeah.
But I do thank you for coming on here. And,
Thanks for having me again, man. This was a blast. Thank you.
I would love to have you on again.
Sure. Let me know. Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe future production we'll have something together. We'll see.
Yeah, put that beat together and send it to me.
I've got
We'll do
some
something.
actually funny you say that. I've got maybe 10 or so beats that don't have lyrics to them yet. Just still sitting on the back burner somewhere. I might re-listen to them, see if they're worth actually sending over to somebody to produce something, and we'll see what happens.
Send it over. We're actually I'm getting with the foundation. We're looking to make a collaborative Catholic hip hop album with most of the artists, because we really want to put our name out there. Because I think the Protestant, I call them the Protestant artists, have really gained.
They have in the culture, like that could be a whole podcast we could talk about. But Catholicism used to own the culture.
Yep.
And we have, in America at least, we have seceded that to the Protestants.
We have
and other various people and wokeism.
That's so true. We're doing everything we can. My thing is, like, if your production is good, we have a chance. We have a shot. People want to hear high quality stuff, and if we can give them that, at least we can take it from there. We're trying to come up with like a collaborative 13-track hip hop album with like multiple producers. So if you got a couple of beats that we could definitely use, we'll throw it on there. We're gonna call it Rapistolic Succession.
Rapistolic Succession.
That'll be the name of the album. So we'll have like 3 or 4 artists in one song and 3 or 4 other artists in another song, and mix and match different artists. So it'll be like a Wu-Tang Clan collaborative, like a whole movement album that we're working on. So
yeah, I'll send you a couple things then. I've got a few bouncing around, and I'll also try and mess with the Miserere and see if we can get something out of that.
That'd be cool.
I would love to do something with. I've wanted to do that since I first heard some of your tracks. And I haven't quite figured it out yet, but if I figure it out, I'll send it to you. You
heard the passion that I did?
I did, yeah. Kennedy was tearing up when he was playing it on his stream.
Yeah, the allergies, yeah. So that's something that I think we could, like something similar to that. But if you want to throw some drums on there too, you can,
yeah. That's what I would do, because there's got to be. That's something we can talk about offline. Let's not give our ideas away here on the stream.
Yeah, you're right. It's a good idea. All right, brother.
But I'm happy to chat after the outro rolls, because then
the
stream will be ended. So, anyways,
the green room.
This is over for you guys. We're going to the green room, but I'm happy you guys were here. Is there anything you want to shout out before we jump off, Enoch? Besides Be the Light, everybody should go buy that.
Be the Light. Just stream it if you want to. It's on Spotify. It's on YouTube. So there's 2 tracks that are coming out pretty soon that I really want to push. One of them is Blood of a Martyr.
Yeah, I saw the track for that.
The other one I'm releasing on Father's Day. This is the one that I'm really trying to push. I'm really trying to get this song to be the #1 song in like the Christian Billboard genre, Christian gospel, because the album got to #3. I want this song to get to #1. You know who Zuby is?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so Zuby's going to be featuring on this song. He's going to be on this song. So me and Zuby are doing a song together. I'm trying to get Bryson said he would do the 3rd verse. I'm still trying to get Bryson to do the 3rd verse. I know it's controversial, but he's a rapper, and I want to get him on there. But it's a fatherhood song about fathers who keep their children away from the evil woke agenda. So that's what the song is about. So it's pretty much the song is called I'm either gonna call it Over My Dead Body or Gotta Get Through Us First.
Gotta Get Through Us First. Yeah. Those are both good. Yeah.
So, but that song will come out on Father's Day. So those are the 2 tracks. So, but I appreciate you guys.
Definitely, everybody go check those out when they drop.
Yeah.
In the meantime, definitely go check out Be the Light. I really like that one.
Be the Light. Yeah, check that one out, man. Especially if you know anybody who's really struggling, send them that song.
And a buddy of mine said to shout out No Sin because he really likes that one.
Oh, hey, thank you. Yeah, with Taylor Marshall in the beginning.
Yeah, is that the DJ Dewey Rhymes?
That's that. Yeah, that's the name that he picked. Yeah, that's what he wanted to go as.
That is a great name, by the way.
Honestly, it might be one of the best Catholic hip hop names ever. And he took it. He's not even a rapper.
Yeah, that stinks. Somebody should buy it off of him. Anyway,
yeah, somebody should. Yeah.
As always, I'm Chris from Crash Canon, and thanks for coming on, Enoch.